Episode number 131 of Making a Case. Have black people took racism and feminism to the extreme? Let's talk about it. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Making a Case. We're on episode 131, and we're discussing, have black people become the new racists and feminists of our day? All right. Trigger alert. Okay, got to say that, right? So we're gonna address some things that, I'm not gonna sit well with some people, but the facts are the facts. We gotta call it like it is, and of course, on making a case, we make a case, we present videos and information, and I make my case. So my case is that yes, black people have become very racist and very feminist. Of course, when we talk about feminism, we're talking more so about black women, even though there's some male feminists out here, right? But before we move further, of course, we got two channel norms. One, we'll take points in our people, and then two, we don't do all that cussing, derogatory stuff because we're professional over here. So, and let me explain to you why I feel like talking about this topic was so important. Because I see it all over TikTok, social media, right? Where white people, the whole idea of black fatigue, right? And white people who are making videos saying, yeah, black people can say anything about us, but as soon as we address something, then we call racist, yada yada yada. Which, of course, everybody understands is true, right? I think because of the trauma and because of the history, particularly in the United States of America, that black people feel like they can say and do anything they want to people and not be labeled racist. And that is unequivocally false. Okay. Yes, we do understand that the whole idea of racism, okay, is a system that was not created by black people or African Americans, however you want to call us, right? But yet and still, to be racist is to demonize or look at somebody based on their race, which we also understand that race is a social construction. Okay. And one thing that I don't think that we talk about enough is the fact that when we talk about, we should be talking more about species than anything, right? Everybody is a part of the same species. Race is a social construction, right? When you trace back our DNA, our genetics, when you look at things from a scientific level, we understand that we are the same. Yes. And yes, did we go through mutations and things like that? That's a whole nother subject and topic for another video. But at the end of the day, we are the same. And, we make everything literally. I was thinking about this the other day. Tall people and short people don't get along because tall people be trying to bully short people. When it comes to skinny people and fat people, well, skinny people shame fat people. When you always break it down, we're dividing by something, right? Part of it is natural. Part of it is like it just kind of is what it is because, like, yes, when people look different, when they act different, then people are gonna say things. People are gonna feel like they better than other people, right? But at the end of the day, I think we didn't came to a point where we are so intentional of finding division and finding how somebody is not like us that it's created so many problems. It's messing up our mental health, right? And then when you look at the other side, when we talk about feminism, of course, we're talking about women who are either divesting themselves from men or want to be on the same playing field as men or, whatever the case may be, right? But the only problem is that this is causing a ripple and effect in our society when it comes to birth rates, when it comes to jobs, right? The list goes on and on. Like I said, that's a whole nother video. And I feel like we've kind of talked about some of these things before. But what I really want to look at today is like the fact that black people, black men and women, right, have a certain ideology and certain feelings when it comes to people outside of our race. right? How do I know this? Well, because I'm a black man living in America my whole life. I'm around black people more so than not, right? I I see this type of stuff all the time, right? I hear the rhetoric that comes out of black people's mouth, right? So we feel like that we can say anything, okay? And we get offended by the slightest thing if somebody is of another race. And it's just crazy to me. And when it comes to feminism, which of course was not created for black women. So now black women got to literally find their own movement, which I'm gonna show you a video here in a second, where like they can just be black women, right? So we're gonna address how black men and black women, when it comes to racism and feminism, is just we're taking it to the extreme. Okay. And all right, without further ado, let's get into my first video.
As a feminist, I'm telling you that you are worth more than what's in your wallet. Remember the conversation between Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin? Nikki said in that conversation, I'm not looking for a provider. I want a partner. I understand it's not your fault you can't be a provider. So don't take that on me because I didn't even really ask you to do that. It's the manosphere people who are telling men you're not worth shit and you don't deserve shit because you can't pay all the bills. I understand why you can't pay all the bills. Just show up and make my life easier. So you rather beat yourself up, be mad all the time because you can't fulfill the dictates of normative masculinity when I, being bad feminist, am saying, I actually don't even need you to do that. Make this a happy, joyful life. You rather be down on yourself all the time about why you're not a six-figure man. Okay, that's your choice. Feminists be
Let me say this about her talking points. I wouldn't say that her talking points do not exist because, of course, they do. But the only problem is that she's talking about a very small segment of people, of men who actually think this way, who think that their money is tied to their masculinity and their manhood. Most men don't believe that because most men are out here working very hard, right? And are providing for their family. Now, they may not be paying 100% of the bills, but when you get with another person that is an adult, right? It only would make sense where that other adult would contribute because guess what? They a mouth that needs to be fed. And if they have kids together, well, they help conceive those kids as well. So it's at the end of the day, it's about being an adult. Okay. Now, do people subscribe to the whole making six figures and stuff? Yes, but it's a very small percentage of the population. So if you think you're doing men a favor by being a quote unquote feminist, right? Once again, that is on an extreme level. The whole making six figures as a man, that's on an extreme level. Most men don't make six figures. Most people don't make six figures, right? So we got to stop this with these very small social media talking points and thinking that in real life that people are thinking this way and feeling this way because it's simply not true. Let's get to my next clip.
Intersectionality thrown around a lot lately. A Black woman coined the term in 1989 to highlight the overlapping ways Black women are oppressed every day. Her name is Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, and her work is especially relevant today because even though intersectionality is a buzzword these days, traditional feminism still doesn't consider the many ways Black women and other women of color experience oppression. And that makes a lot of people feel marginalized by the movement that's supposed to fight for them. Despite being historically left out of feminism, Black women have always been doing the work, creating their own political and social movements that don't depend on traditional feminism at all. Writer Alice Walker coined the term womanist in 1983. Womanism is a social framework that separates itself from feminism and centers Black women. Here's how scholar Layli Phillips puts it. Unlike feminism, and despite its name, womanism does not emphasize or privilege gender or sexism. Rather, it elevates all sites and forms of oppression to a level of equal concern and action. While scholars have drawn clear lines between what separates womanism and feminism, a lot of Black women fall somewhere in between and identify as Black feminists. But as Professor Patricia Hill Collins argues, there's not really a term that represents the fullness of what Black women now call Black feminism and womanism. Regardless of how you identify, traditional feminism has always fallen short. It's forgotten how police brutality disproportionately affects Black women, that African American and Latina women continue to make less than, literally, everyone else. and that murders of trans women of color are underreported and forgotten. The good news is, womanists and Black feminists are more visible these days, and they're helping to change the way people look at feminism in the mainstream. Remember, you don't have to be Black to practice intersection.
Let me say this. There's not a problem with because people will always form social groups. We always have, right? It's just part of our DNA. We're social people, right? So whether that's based off gender, race, hobbies, etc., right? So that's normal, right? But the problem is a lot of time when people are coining these terms, creating these terms, feminist, womanist, woke, whatever the case may be, right? You're always ostracizing other people. You're setting yourself apart as saying that, hey, we're oppressed, we're this, we that, we're victims, and things of that nature. And when it comes to Black feminism or Black feminists, whatever, the term that people want to call it, of course you leaving out men, right? Of course you're saying men are the big back bullies. Of course you're saying that we're victimized by men, right? There is this undertone of problems and negativity that comes with that, right? Because otherwise, why would you be separating yourself from men? So what Black feminism has done, and we're going to call it Black feminism instead of just feminism, it has created this dynamic where, like the other woman said, no, I think she said in this, I think it was the last clip, where like Nika Giovanni said that she wants to be equal. See, women have in their mind that they want to be equal to men. There is no such thing, and that's the problem. You will never have equality. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say it. Equality does not exist amongst any system, amongst primates, amongst any animals, etc. Amongst cells, snowflakes are not even equal, right? So we got to stop this notion, and that's the problem with feminism, particularly Black feminism. So now it's saying, well, I want to chase this career, I want to chase this money, I want to chase this because I want to be equal to a man. It has been turned into a competition. And that's the problem with Black feminism. Let's switch gears because now we're going to talk about some racism. All right, let's get it.
Statement. It is okay to be white.
No, that's not okay. It's terrible to be white. Who want to be white? That's awful.
Why is it not okay to be white?
Y'all have done too much. I would rather
people.
Yeah, as a whole.
Too much good or too much bad?
Too much bad.
What should white people do about that?
Try not to be white.
So you just don't like white people as a whole?
No. Yeah, I am racist.
Are you serious? Or
100%.
Now, I'll be honest. I couldn't really tell if she was trolling. It kind of looked like she was serious. But to be honest with you, that's a sentiment that I think a lot of Black people share, right? Because if we was being honest, most of us did not work in the field. Yes, have we experienced some form of racism and discrimination? Absolutely, but it was nothing like our forefathers, our ancestors experienced. So most of it just anger and angst from what we read and heard from people, right? And so even though we don't want to be discriminated against because of our color, like we don't feel like it's a problem to do it against another color because of the victimhood that we've either experienced ourselves or that our people have experienced, right? So the psychology is very off, okay? And I'm just one of the few people that are willing to call it out for what it is, because some people probably will call me a sellout or Uncle Tom or what have you. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that Uncle Tom was a hero because they don't know their history. I do. But anywho, coon, whatever word they want to use, right? But I'm just a person that understands that we're all human. I'm a person that always go with the facts, right? The data. And it's not a race thing for me. It's not a gender thing for me. I call it how I see it and what it is, right? So unfortunately, people are going to have this mentality where they Black, white, etc. Racism is racism, right? If you believe in an ideology that are judging people on their race, you're a racist. And unfortunately, black people has took it to the extreme because they feel like they're justified because of our past history collectively. All right. And there is no justification for treating somebody based off the color of their skin or because they're big or what have you. Right. And the sad part about it is I'm assuming this woman would say that she's a Christian, even though we ain't even gonna go there. All right, let's get to our last video so we can wrap this episode up.
Israelites, the most racist black people in America.
White people are a virus. We don't hate white people. God hates white people. He created them to be hated. The only thing that a white person could give me is their life. The longer you exist, the more I'm oppressed. So when you come in, you actually step on the white man. We're very militant. We're not Christians. Whoop your ass if necessary.
Are you guys labeled as a terrorist organization?
I know we're a hate group. We're labeled as a hate group. Matter of fact, we might be terrorists.
When you see like a white baby, are you like, God, I wish you were aborted?
When I see a white baby, I'll be like, he's going to try to enslave my people when he gets older.
Do you think racism is a good thing?
I think it's a natural thing for ethnicities to stick to their own.
When did you realize you were an Israelite?
2009 is, I guess, when I started realizing that this might be true.
Right now in 2025, I would argue black people have the same opportunity to do anything. Would you agree?
Can you show me where we have the same opportunity?
Everywhere.
Nah, I don't think so.
Tell me why. Tap here to see what he said.
Now, as you can see with that video clip, they were very extreme, right? I'm actually pretty familiar with the Hebrew Israelites. All of them do not reflect that attitude. They're more so on the extreme side, but that is definitely like, if we was on a scale of 1 to 10, they definitely at least at a 9, right? Maybe a 10. So there are people who, feel that way, right? Like I said, due to our history. But, at the end of the day, I think it's more so people, if you ask a random black person how do they feel about white people, you will get some similar response around, well, I feel like most white, well, you might get the fact that they don't experience white people like that on a day-to-day basis, so they might kind of tiptoe around how they feel about white people. But at the end of the day, I think they would have some type of negativity because they probably feel like a lot of white people are prejudiced or biased or discriminatory, which is a lot of truth to that, right? And we've been socialized and trained for the bigotry and the hatred, right? But at the end of the day, how does this make us any better than the very people that we're claiming are the evil ones? That's what I'm trying to get at, right? So for me, I don't know. I move in love and with love, and that's the reason why I start my channel off of saying that we attack points and not people, and then we don't do all the cussing stuff. Like, to me, you got to be an example, right? I get it. The negativity sells. I totally get it, right? But a lot of people done sold their soul, bro. Mine's still intact. And I'm going to keep bringing you what I'm bringing, right? And I'm able to articulate myself very well. All right. All right, we're going to end it right there. Hopefully you got some kind of new perspective, man. Please make sure you comment, like, share the video, man. I want to hear your feedback. What you think about the topic today? So are black people more extremists when it comes to race and feminism? Let me know what you think in the comments. All right. But as always, I'm you, you are me, love, always love, eternal. Remember, the worst thing you do is lie to yourself, and we're out. Deuces. One love.